It's time for another episode of The Mouse and Men, where we explore the grown-up side of Disney. Find us on social media at The Mouse and Men on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Find us on YouTube, where we broadcast the podcast. Or go to themouseandmen.com, where you can get links to all our social media, to YouTube, and you can get our top 10 things for grown-ups to do in Walt Disney World. I am Bradley. I'm here with my co-host, Chris. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's going to be fun today walking down memory lane, as it were, talking about the old school Disney that we remember from our youth.
Yeah. So for those of you who aren't as familiar with what's now called Disney Springs, it used to be called, in Orlando, Downtown Disney. A couple years ago, they went through just kind of an update, a rebranding, if you will. So this is going to be a two-part series. Today, we're going to talk about Downtown Disney and what we remember from going there in the past. And the next episode will be more about Disney Springs and what it's like now. So,
Bradley, are you saying that today we're going to be talking about yesterday, and next week we'll be talking about today?
Yes, I think that math works out. A little bit of Back to the Future here going on.
Yes.
So find the keys to the DeLorean, and let's get to exploring Disney. So, Chris, what is your background with Downtown Disney, as it was called?
Yeah, it's fun. Again, Disney Springs now, which used to be called Downtown Disney, was this thing that didn't make sense to me when I first heard about it. Because growing up in Alabama, I thought of Disney World primarily as the Magic Kingdom, and then Epcot, and then they started adding. I think it was MGM Studios at the time.
Yeah.
And then Disney or Downtown Disney became a thing in I want to say in the early 90s, I believe, late 80s, early 90s time period. And when I first heard about it, I was like, what? It was just, you can just go. You don't have to get a ticket. And so Thinking about this idea, it just sounded almost too fantastical, because my primary thought in my head was that when you go to Disney, you pay a lot of money, because I'd heard my parents saying we can't always go to Disney because it's so expensive. But you can just show up and walk in. And so it intrigued me so much so to where I had to experience it at some point. And I experienced the old Downtown Disney, and now love the new downtown, see, it's still hard for me sometimes to say it the correct way, the new Disney Springs, because it's just in my head as Downtown Disney so much. What about you? What was your first kind of inclination about what Downtown Disney / Disney Springs was or is?
Yeah, I think, like you, I first remember Disney as Magic Kingdom and Epcot. But the reason you went there was for the Magic Kingdom. As I got older, because we would go down to Central Florida for baseball tournaments, it became, Disney Springs is a place where I can go with some of my teammates, because our parents are already paying all this money for us to go down to Central Florida, enter this tournament, pay for the hotel, all of our food, all of that. And because we were playing baseball most of the day, it didn't make sense to then go spend a bunch of money for 3 hours in the park. So, I remember Downtown Disney being fun, but it was never as fun as the parks, in my opinion. But also, it came with a better price tag. So, as a high schooler having to come up with my own money to get in places, Downtown Disney was just fine with me.
Yeah, it is interesting. that price tag was very appealing to me too. I remember I was on a guy's road trip. I went to school for a year in Florida, and me and my friends, the school was in the Panhandle, and we went on a road trip to Tampa and spent a weekend there. And we were coming back home, and we we're like, let's go to Disney. And all of us were just a bunch of like 18, 19-year-old poor college students that didn't really have two nickels to rub together. And we were like, yeah, that'd be awesome, but you have to basically get a loan from the bank to go to Disney World, which is what we thought. But then I remembered, or one of us remembered, downtown Disney. And we're like, yeah, I think that place is free. And like, we can just go get McDonald's at that McDonald's. It's right off or like right inside the perimeter of the Walt Disney World universe down there. We can go get cheap McDonald's. We can walk around there for 6 or 8 hours. And here was the kicker. Then we have to get back in our car and drive late night to get back to our school in the Panhandle, because that Monday we had a midterm. So I don't know why we decided to just I guess none of us were serious about school at that point, but that's what we did. So we just decided to go, and we pull up, we park at downtown Disney, and we start exploring, and none of us had ever been. And so it was just like, there's all these cool areas and places that you can go. And it's essentially it's an outdoor mall, but like a Disney-fied outdoor mall. So it's really cool. And they had all these things, and there were opportunities to pay for things, like there was a movie theater and some other opportunities, but like we walked around there for hours. And then we eventually made our way. We thought to ourselves, like, hey, doesn't the monorail like drop you off inside the parks? And we're like, yeah. It's like, maybe we can get on the monorail and like sneak into the parks. And it had been so many years since I had been at that point that I didn't know that it drops you off outside the parks. But regardless, we had a nice monorail tour of the body of water there. Is it Bay Lake? I believe, something like that.
So I'm only imagining that this thought process is the same thought process that you're using on Monday for those midterms, and that couldn't have gone well.
Yeah, we didn't make the best decisions and weren't too smart when it comes to all this kind of stuff. But I can remember getting on the monorail and it starts moving, and I'm like, nobody checked for a ticket. I think we figured out the way to sneak into here. And then it pulled up. It was either Epcot or Magic Kingdom first from where we got on, probably at the Ticket and Transportation Center. But we go through the Contemporary and we see some of the other resorts there, and then they drop us off, and we get off like, nobody's stopping us. Here we go. And so we get off the monorail thinking that like we're inside the parks. And, as if you've been down to Disney, you will know they drop you off hundreds of feet in front of the gates of either of the parks. And so once we figured out that happened, then we're like, okay, well, this was at least a nice little tour of some really pretty areas down in Central Florida. And so let's head back to downtown Disney, which we did and had a blast. But that was my first experience with downtown Disney. And so just a lot of fun. But again, we were able to pull off a road trip with a stop off at Disney, and basically all we paid for, because parking is free at downtown Disney / Disney Springs. So all we really paid for was a meal, and maybe one or two of us got, a souvenir or something like that. But we were just able to kind of hang out and have a lot of fun without really paying any money.
Yeah, it was a great place to go. One of the places that probably was the biggest ticketed thing down at downtown Disney was Disney Quest. And I got to do it once, and I want to say it was 40, 50, 60 bucks, something like that. And the best way that I could describe it, and I could be a little wrong because I only went once, it was a virtual theme park. What I remember most is going in there with one of my buddies, one of my baseball teammates, and there was a design your own roller coaster. So you design your roller coaster. And, I don't know if you had some sort of USB drive kind of thing where it's saved, and you could choose the different elements, and it was ranked, on thrill 1 to 10, 1 to 5, something, who knows. But we basically picked all 9s and 10s for, intensity, thinking, okay, we're going to make the most epic roller coaster ever. And when it kind of gives you your final score, it's like a B-. Like, what? we picked all the thrilling stuff. But go in, hand the cast member our little card, whatever, and it reads the track that we've designed, and you hop in this little pod, strap in like a normal roller coaster, and then it just moves you all around. I'm sure that technology is part of what they use to then design things like Flight of Passage, uh,
Yeah.
Smuggler's Run. I can't remember what else is in Galaxy's Edge, but those things that are kind of a virtual roller coaster type attraction. So did that. And what I remember, and I feel really bad about this, is back then I used to carry a lot of change in my pocket. I don't know if everybody did that, but I did. It just
got to fill up those cargo shorts somehow.
Exactly. And I think I just like the sound. I've got a couple coins here. I think I just liked the sound of change in my pocket, just well, in that roller coaster, it was really rocking, and those coins started falling out of my pockets and flying around this little pod, and it's smacking me in the top of the head. I'm like, what in the world? And then I realized, oh, it's little pieces of metal that fell out of my pocket. So the ride ends. I'm thoroughly embarrassed. So what do I do? Do I say, hey, I left some change in there? No, I just walked away. So whoever rode that next, I am terribly sorry. You probably just got pelted with about $3 worth of US coins.
I think that Disney has some sort of side market to where a secondary income for them is just picking up change that has dropped out of people's pockets, people leaving behind wallets and cell phones and things like that falling out of it when you're on roller coasters. And so I think that maybe you gave them an idea years ago of like, I think we could probably make a good income off of this as long as people don't come back and claim these items later.
Right. Well, somebody made about $3 off of me that day without having to do anything really. But Disney Quest was cool. I guess they demolished it, or maybe is that where Cirque du Soleil is now? Maybe
I think that Cirque du Soleil and Disney Quest, if I'm not mistaken, I think that they were there at the same time. They overlapped at some point. So if I can recall correctly, it was like there were a couple of big pillar things back in the day. There was Disney Quest, there was Cirque du Soleil. I think the big globe that Planet Hollywood was in was also there. And so the kind of these bigger things that you can see, I feel like I remember seeing them all at the same time. But Disney Quest was one of those things where I always wanted to go, but never was able to. And kind of what you're saying, that like earlier, you're saying that my parents are paying for us to already be down there. And so oftentimes if I wasn't paying for the trip, I get down there and I felt bad with somebody else, like my father-in-law or somebody like that buying my ticket, or my parents. And so to ask them for another, some $40 or $50 kind of experience, I never was able to pull the trigger on asking, but always wanted to, because it sounded so cool and right up my alley, being virtual reality and that kind of stuff, especially in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, it was it was a cool thing. I mean, just the fact that it's completely enclosed, and this is before the internet, so you don't really know what's inside. And I think just that mystery made it really appealing.
I think it was actually kind of that mystery. I'm remembering a time or two now where that mystery actually played against me and actually going, because maybe I would discuss it with my now wife and at that point, my future father-in-law. We would discuss it, but not knowing more about it, it was kind of hard to put down the $40 or $50 ticket times a couple of us to go experience something that we really didn't know what we were getting into. So it's kind of a hard ticket to pull the trigger on.
Yeah. Looking back, it's probably fun once, maybe twice. It was gone by the time that I was going down to Disney as an adult, paying my own way, and could decide if I wanted to go try out Disney Quest or not. But had a lot of fun on those baseball trips, just going and spending an afternoon. If we had a morning morning baseball game or something like that, then we could go in the evenings, afternoons to downtown Disney because it was just a short drive over there, not too big of a deal. We're not spending any of mom and dad's money, especially if all we're doing is getting something to eat and drink. $10. Okay, we can roll with that. So Disney Springs, well, yeah, downtown Disney was a fun place to go back in the day. I'm excited about what it's become, and we'll get into that more because it's really expanded. They've changed up some things. Obviously, Disney Quest and your background, Pleasure Island, aren't there, though some of those concepts still live on down at Disney Springs.
Just quickly, I did go down there a time or two with, again, I kind of wanted to talk about when we talk about doing this episode of like saying like, this is a good way to enter the Disney world. If you want to go on a guy's trip or a girl's trip or something, that you can find a lot of stuff to do that you don't have to pay those park fees in order to experience it. And so I remember one time when I went down with who is now my wife, my fiance at that time, I would always go down with like her and her sister and her father-in-law. We went down maybe twice a year for several years, and we had a lot of fun. One time, everybody was kind of tired. My wife wasn't really feeling well after a long day in the park, but I still had some energy left. And so, because Disney, you can go and explore so much to where we were staying at that time, I could just hop on a bus, go to downtown Disney from there. I didn't have to have my own vehicle. And so I went down to downtown Disney to Pleasure Island back when that was still there. And it used to be divided up. I think it was like the West Side and Pleasure Island, and like the downtown Disney area, I think had, maybe it's called the Marketplace or something like that. But I went to Pleasure Island and I went and saw a comedy show, like top-notch comedy that was there. And so the idea that they had like dance clubs and comedy, and it was more that Pleasure Island was kind of more of an adult area that really appealed to me when I was a teenager. And I was like, oh, I'd love to go down there. So I finally had an experience where I was alone for a night, didn't want to just settle down and watch TV. So I went to Pleasure Island and had a blast. And so I know that maybe overall that Pleasure Island experience wasn't what Disney wanted to continue to offer at downtown Disney when it became Disney Springs. But there's a part of me that really misses that, because it was cool to go down and see a comedy show or go watch a live band or go to a dance club, that kind of thing. So I miss it a little bit, but I guess, you got to roll with the punches when Disney decides to change things up.
Right. Disney gets to control that kind of stuff, but I think that lends itself to our plussing segment this week. So let's get to plussing. Plus. So this week, the suggestion is just talk to a cast member. So, Chris, you're looking for something to do because, hey, my fiance is not feeling well. Maybe your kids are exhausted, or you just need a break from your kids for a little bit. Ask a cast member at your resort, or if you're staying off Disney property, go to downtown or now Disney Springs and find a cast member and say, hey, what's something new that I need to check out? Or, I'm looking for this type of dinner. I'm looking for that type of experience, and they can help you with that, especially during holiday seasons when things are always changing. Or during the summer, often there are special promotions or special treats that are only available during the summer. The cast members are your best way to know what's new, what's changing. So go find a cast member and ask them. They're all very knowledgeable and can point you in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm a little shocked at how knowledgeable they all are. I feel like that if I were in their position, I wouldn't have my head filled with as much stuff as they do. But I've never been disappointed when I've asked a cast member for a recommendation or an option or an experience, or what's going on down here, or is there something cool that I should try that's only going to stick around for a limited time. It's like they always know. And maybe there's a time or two where they didn't know, but they always knew where to point me to find out more information as well, whether it was getting a brochure for me or putting me in touch with someone sitting right beside them or something. But it's amazing how much they retain and remember to make your experience that much better. And that's kind of the heart of why we do Plusing in the first place, is how to make your experiences that much better. And I couldn't think of a better thing than to ask a cast member.
Well, another way that you can do, if you're thinking about this before you go down there, you can ask a travel agent. We highly recommend travel agents going down to Disney, but you can also just go to Walt Disney World's website, and there they've got a lot of information. If you want to go check out Disney Springs, look it up and see what's offered there. That's a great place to start as well before you get down there. I mean, you can still visit it while you're down there, but when you've got cast members right there, they're going to be your best knowledge right there on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. They always know something, and I think that the combo of the website and then using a human's touch as well to really make your experience that much more unique and special it's great. So great idea for Plusing this week, to lean on a cast member and then check the website as well. Because one thing that I just saw as we were talking about Disney Springs this week is they have a Christmas tree stroll that's going on right now. That obviously that's only going to be during the holiday season, but a specific and unique experience that you would have right now that you're not going to get if you go in January or February. And if they do it again next year, the Christmas tree stroll is going to be unique and different for that year as well, because they're always changing things up. And so one of the beautiful things about Disney is there's always new things to try, even if you've been there 100 times.
I agree. And that is why we love exploring the grown-up side of Disney, because things are always changing and there's always something for us adults to do. So I'm really excited about next week's episode, where we look at more of the contemporary Disney Springs and what's offered there, and what we did in August of 2019 when we visited.
Yes.
Some awesome things that were just getting started just over a year ago that now are kind of in full bloom. So excited to talk about that next week with you, Chris.
Yeah, me too. I love talking about Disney. I love talking about Disney with you specifically, because we've just have been doing it for years now, and we have that shared love. So we hope that there are others out there, or we hope that others out there are also enjoying these chats as well. But we would love to hear from you on the socials. Come visit us on themouseandmen.com, where you can just interact. We would love to chat with you. And also tell us some of your pluses as well, the things that you like to do when you go down there to enhance your experience that much more.
Love it. So do find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at The Mouse and Men. As Chris said, themouseandmen.com. And of course, check out our podcast episodes on YouTube, where we broadcast the podcast, where we both have throwback virtual backgrounds to downtown Disney. I can't complain about that. So, Chris, don't grow up too fast,
but keep exploring.